Okay, so I have to explain in the universe the physics of the Higgs boson, God particle, where everything came from, and then translate it all the way into religion with Catholicism, like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And what does that really mean? What does that look like from the physics point of view all the way to the theologian point of view? And that is then merging science and religion all together. And then the compartmentalizing of the players is then what causes the offshoots of all the scientific dogmas and religious dogmas. So I was doing some writing stuff, and I know I have to break down the power of 1, 2, and 3. And we know that is an evolutionary system because it is working off of and adding to the whole, to, you keep increasing by 1, and then multiplication is to increase by whatever you want to multiply it by. Okay, so the power of 1 is the space interstellar plasma. That's all the God particles, the gluons, and that's the plasma. That is what's also in your blood that carries the B cell memories. So you have T cell memories and B cell memories. So you have the blood plasma, and then you have the plasma out there in the universe if you're not on a planet and you're in between planets, I guess, if you're going to use that as an example. And then when you watch Stranger Things, the upside down is made up of plasma within an alimentary canal. And those are the tunnels or the different worlds that the Stranger Things actors are playing in and trying to show you an allegory. So the power of 2 is intelligence. Okay, so you have the plasma that allows the protons and neutrons and all the different atomic activity to happen. And then you have intelligence. That intelligence turns into some kind of biodiversity. And then you have the infinite intelligence. And that's where you have the infinite sacred geometry. And so that's the power of 3. Okay. And so then you look at the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then you look at the Father, which is basically the power of 1, the space interstellar plasma, which is a bunch of energy, all the different photons and neutrons and electrons and all that. And let's see if I can take this down too. You have the gluons. And that is, when you think about it, the gluon, it is the Father. It is an elementary particle that acts as an exchange particle or gauge boson for the strong force between the quarks. It is analogous to the exchange of photons and the electromagnetic force between two charged particles. Gluons bind quarks together, forming hadrons such as protons and neutrons. And so then you're looking at then agglutination within your blood and all the different antibodies that then form another intelligence within your blood, within your body. And if it's not managed correctly, that agglutination turns into like a teratoma, a cancer, a disease, chronic illness, whatever. Okay? So that's why you have to understand how to break up and disperse some of the aggressive antibodies that are in your body, coagulating, agglutinating. All right, so then you look at, so the Father, that is the gluons, that is the God particles, okay? So you're seeing where God comes from, the whole thing with God. Then you have the sun, S-O-N, S-U-N. Then you have the light, Lucifer, the protons, and that is the intelligence. That's why Lucifer is called the light God, if you were to look at Greek mythology, okay? And that's the Lucifer, that's intelligence. So you can look at, it's the power of 2, because that sun, that the Father is the gluons, the sun, the light, Lucifer, the intelligence, then projects the intelligence out there. How you receive the intelligence will be the difference, but in long life or short life. But the sun, the light, Lucifer is intelligence. Then the power of 3 is the Holy Spirit, which is taking apart the Father and the Son. And that's the infinite intelligence. That is the sacred geometry and then the limitations of the object and its purpose. Okay, and that's where the programming, that's where the viruses come into play. The viruses are the power of 1, 2, and 3. They are the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit as far as Catholicism goes. So then you have to look at what proton. Now, when I was breaking this down for myself, because I was trying to make some very, superficial connections between the proton, the neutron, and the electron. I'm like, okay, the proton is positive, the electron is a negative, the neutron is the equal. And I'm like, okay, is the neutron explaining when you have the proton and the electron together, they cancel each other out, so it's like equilibrium? Well, there's that way to look at it, yes, but then you have to go deeper into what are the protons, what are electrons, and then what are neutrons, and then it goes deeper than that, just that superficial. But that's a layer of programming. That's like saying, okay, yeah, you have plus and you have minus, and then you have the equilibrium. But is there anything, can you really have that equilibrium across everywhere? No, that's called death. You could have relative equilibrium, which is relative peace, but there's still little mini explosions at the micro level going on that you can't feel, but that's energy. That's you giving forth a projected movement. So whatever movement you're making are mini explosions. So you're never really at real true equilibrium, because real true equilibrium is death. So you got to go deeper than just the equilibrium and the neutron, meaning that the positive and negative are balance each other out. So the proton is made up of 2 quarks, 2 up quarks, 1 down quark, and then gluons mediating the forces binding them together. So then you even break down the proton, and that's the 2 up quarks and the 1 down. So there's still 3 going on. Then you have the father, the gluons, that are keeping things together. Okay, that's a proton. And so where did quarks arise from? They rose in the 1960s as a way to explain the behavior of particles discovered through high energy atomic collisions. This is what the Large Hadron Collider, like all particle accelerators, actually does. It smashes atoms and subatomic particles together, allowing us to see what happens. And that's what CERN is. And this is done with, this has been around since 1964. So it's not like CERN is anything new. We just became aware of it. I just became aware of it. So is it new to me? Yeah, it's new to me, but it's not really new per se. It came before I even was born. Okay, so they've been smashing atoms for centuries. Well, for at least years. I don't know about centuries. They might have done it way a long time ago, and then we're doing it again in this simulation. How do we know about this? Somebody gave us the basis foundation, and maybe we evolved the basic foundation, but how do we know to even evolve it to get to a certain point? How do we know that we could have computers if somebody didn't show us that there was a way to get a computer? How do we know that there was indefinite life? It wasn't like anyone showed it to me, but I knew that life, there was an example of what life was. So what keeps a person alive and what causes their death? Well, if you understand what keeps a person alive and what causes someone's death, then you can then look at the possibility of immortality. Okay? And so Electron has an antiparticle called a positron. See, and I've used the word positron, but I didn't really know what it meant. But it is a combination. It's a merging of both electron and proton. Okay? So electron has an antiparticle called a positron. And like the electron, this is a fundamental particle and is a member of the family of leptons. So you have leptons and you have quarks. That's when you have the atomic particles and the subatomic particles. And then the neutron, also the electron, a neutron is a subatomic particle found in the nucleus of every atom except that of a simple hydrogen. Now, I didn't know that. The particle derives its name from the fact that it has no electrical charge. It is neutral. So a neutron is made up of 3 quarks, 1 up quark and 2 down quarks, and many, many intermediate particles called gluons, which carry the interaction between the quarks. These gluons are exchanged very often, so the quarks feel other neutrons do not also decay. So the quarks feel other neutrons do not also decay. And so what is decay? What is beta decay? Well, it is an electron emission, also called a negative beta decay, symbolized B, decay. An unstable nucleus emits an energetic electron. Okay, so protons don't decay, electrons don't decay, but an electron emission, that's where thermodynamics, When someone is decaying, that's energy, that's entropy. They are producing an electron called negative beta decay. And so how do you counteract entropy? Well, it's called then building yourself up, called negentropy, but you don't want to build yourself so much then you get cancer and all the other stuff and consume all the resources. So you have to balance out both entropy and negentropy. Even though thermodynamics is all about entropy, but you have to understand how to then become whole again. Every single time you do something, whatever action that equals a reaction is taking energy from you, you have to keep giving yourself energy that you keep taking away from yourself just by your daily life. That's why you eat. That's why you don't take so many antibiotics. That causes then increased entropy. And then what happens is then there's other entities that want to go and take over and think they can do better, and then they actually end up cannibalizing you, or Mother Nature calls in the loan. Okay? And that's where you can then fit in all the different things that I'm talking about and find a way to make sense of it and understand how to stay alive in this very aggressive environment. So the Higgs boson. So here we go. So the dark matter is the interstellar plasma made up of gluons and quarks, allowing two pepped up protons to pass through each other. Okay? Leptons are the smallest measurable particles birthed from protons, neutrons, and electrons. The Higgs boson, also known as the God particle, carrier photonic particle, has no mass, but also the subatomic particles have particles to live, but allows the subatomic particles to live or give mass to elementary particles. Now, I know this is very, very detailed, and will I go to this level? Well, geez, I don't want to go over anyone's heads. I don't want to bore anyone to death. There's definitely going to be, I will say something about this in as part of like the front, like the front story, and then the back story is going to be the details, something like this. Because my book is going to be comprised of like the front story and the back story. So then you can make those connections between the two compartmentalized worlds. Because I want to show the two worlds, like the upside down world, like you see in Stranger Things, and show that the seedier side, the death side, and all the Mother Nature, taking her due, and then also show the possibility of still staying alive despite all that stuff underneath the ground or on the other side of the world, the upside down. Okay, and so I won't bore someone in the front story with this, but if you want to see the details of where I got this information from, and I'll have footnotes. So that's why I have footnotes to kind of give you a tiny bit of an understanding of where I got that info from. But if there's so much more to it, then there's going to be the footnote section that has more of the details, because I cannot possibly give you all the details mixed in with an allegory or with the storyline without losing you. Okay? And so that's why Dante's Inferno and all these different writers of the past needed to find a way to explain to mainstream society how stuff works, if you can even catch the front story and get through all the Latin and all the different footnotes, and then also understand those footnotes also have probably their own footnotes. And then you have to keep then looking at the layers and layers and layers and layers of information, which if you have so many antibodies in your body with so much conflicting information, it'll be very difficult for you to process that information. And then that's where ADD comes from. That's where people get very short attention spans, because they're so full of anxiety, so full of conflicting programming, they can't take on new information. And that's the downside of the innovation in our society. We have innovated people to death, to where they are so just, they have nothing left to give to themselves as well as society. And they just keep taking and taking and taking until there's nothing left of themselves as well as everyone around them. That's where the groups cannibalize each other. Okay? So now you know. Here we go. Yeah, okay. So now you know. All right, hold on a second. So kind of like interstellar plasma, what is a Higgs boson made up of? Rather, they're made up of gluons and quarks. As two pepped up protons pass through each other, it's usually pairs of massless gluons that infuse invisible fields within their combined energy and excite each other and excite other particles into existence. And that includes the Higgs boson. Okay, so energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted. Energy has been here ever since who knows when. And then someone asked me, how many Big Bangs have there been? Infinite. There's Big Bangs going on inside of you right now. I'm doing a Big Bang right now. It's called energy. It's called talking, speaking, producing. So now you know you are the universe. Is it better to be alive on earth or be the walking dead in the upside down world? Is the devil you know better than the devil you do not know? Forget what theologists told you. You have no idea what it's like to be dead. So stay alive. The beginning is relative to your awareness. If you are not aware of the past, anything you become aware of is the beginning for you, but not the beginning. Everything is relative. Just because you are unaware of the world you could live in, like immortality, does not mean the world you live in will be forever. It is always subject to change based upon energy conversion rates. And so, yeah, right now you've been told that you're supposed to die someday and here go live out your life and go have fun and who cares about anything else. And that's fine, but understand there is the other side of it. It's called you don't have to die someday, but you must be able to pay the piper. You must be able to pay your dues to Mother Nature to stay alive indefinitely on this planet. But if that is not your forte and you want to be cured and you don't want to deal with paying your dues to Mother Nature, then that's fine. You will have a lifespan relative to how dynamic the environment is and your predispositions. And that's how Mother Nature keeps the balance. And then man will increase the balance by then infusing so much energy into the atmosphere, then you really have to realize that you either will pay the piper very quickly and pass away, or you will sit down and relax and fucking feel the pain of the evolution of paying back the retroactive debt that you owed from your genetic line, as well as whatever else that you use and didn't pay for as far as Mother Earth within the last 60, 70, 80, whatever, how old you are, years of your life. And so this is exactly how I'm going to merge the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the power of three, and understand that, yeah, I mean, for someone to asexually reproduce, there had to be energy. There had to be other intelligence. And then figure out how to separate, a teratoma or take that entity and put it in a womb so it can grow without it completely being fused to the host. That when you are producing your own parasite, which is your child, okay, that child can be its own separate entity. And that's intelligence. So you don't have a person with 10 heads. You have now a person that's able to carry on generations of people. And they could be separate entities, and they also could be different programming that is evolving and innovating mankind from this point forward. That's the extraordinary intelligence that we are in today in this society, if you can wrap your mind around that. All right, bye.